Do you struggle to feel like you're being heard? Does it feel hard to get your needs met? I'm going to share a 3-step framework with you that will help you feel more empowered in your communication and get your message across clearly so that the other person really hears you. I'm Michelle Baker, creatrix of Art as a Soul Language. I help creative women in midlife use art to receive messages from their soul, guiding them towards their purpose and fulfillment in life. All right, step number 1 in the 3-step framework for getting your needs met and actually being heard by the person you're speaking to is to take ownership over how you've been feeling or what's been happening for you. So examples of this is I've noticed that I've been disengaged lately, or I haven't been feeling excited to come home. So what you're doing is taking complete ownership over how you feel. This is how I feel, and I'm naming it. It's very important to begin the conversation. It's important through the whole conversation to avoid language that is blaming. So to contrast those sentences, you don't want to say, "You've been making me feel sad lately." Instead, you want to say, "I see that I've been feeling lonely." So we want to be really mindful not to say that the other person is making us feel a certain way. And extra heads up, because our mind can be tricky. Sometimes we say what sounds like a feeling statement, but it really is, "I feel like you've been ridiculing me," or "I feel like you're not doing a good job." And so let's just notice that those are not feelings. "I feel like you're not doing a good job" isn't a feeling at all. So it's actually really important to name an emotion, a way of feeling, instead of to say "I feel" and then add something about them. That's actually still blaming. And be careful, because this one is tricky. After you've taken ownership of how you've been feeling and you've shared that on the proverbial table, if you will, step number 2 is the ask. Ask for what you're really wanting. This should feel genuine and authentic, and also a little bit vulnerable.
Please say something.
Asking for what you want is vulnerable because it's kind of like laying your cards out on the table. And it's vulnerable because it means that somebody might not give us what we want, and they might even reject what we want. So, quick side note, think about who you're in this interaction with, and are they a safe enough person that you can be vulnerable with them? That is an important assessment. So, I've made the assumption that when you're using the 3-step framework, you're doing it with somebody that is respectful and safe for you as a person. So at this point, you are asking for what you need, and it might sound like this. "What would feel really good to me is to hear 'I love you' more often," or "I see that what I've been wanting is help with this feeling of overwhelm." So notice how it's just a single request that we are making, and it's in a vulnerable, receptive place. We're not saying, "I need you to take out the trash more often," right? "I see that I've been needing you to take out the trash more often," because that still ends up basically blaming the other person and inherently saying that they're not doing a good enough job. So we want to flip that. In order to really help the other person hear what we have to say, we have to make sure that we are in a place where we are not shooting arrows at them, because anybody that's getting arrows shot at them is going to put up their shields and defend themselves. So notice how it feels to hear, "I see that what I've been wanting is help with feeling overwhelmed." Do you feel how that's like an invitation into problem solving and working together as a team? And that's really what you want. This step can be hard for the women that I work with because they struggle to trust that the other person is going to try to help get their needs met. But the only way to find out or to shift your relationship dynamic, if you have been stuck in a place kind of like a stalemate, is for you to be the one that steps forward with more vulnerability and authenticity. Okay, step number 3 in the 3-step framework is to check in and get feedback. So essentially, you want to open up the conversation now and lean towards a compromise or do problem solving so that you come to a solution. So that can sound like this: "I'm curious, is there something that we could try to make this happen together?" Or another example is that something that we could work towards? Or this is a great one for the being in the feminine to the masculine: Do you have any ideas for how to do that? So opening up, problem solving together as partners is huge. Again, I haven't come into this situation to shoot arrows at you and blame you and then tell you how you should fix it. I have invited you into my inner world by sharing my experience with you and naming it, and then asking for a specific thing that I know that I need, and then seeing if there's a way in which you could meet that need that also leaves room and space for you to do it in the way that feels good to you. And I want to give you a pro tip, okay? Because this is hard to do. I'm naming it all for you, but what I highly recommend is that you write out what you think you would say on a piece of paper first, because then you can check it. And here's the different questions that you want to ask yourself is, how would I feel hearing this? Would I be able to receive this if it was being said to me, or would I get defensive? Am I taking ownership? Do a quick double check. Did I say how I was feeling, or did I secretly blame? Am I blaming is another question. Just a good check of like, do I have my arrows pointed outward, or am I inviting them into the conversation? Am I stating my desire clearly? This is a really important one. Have I really named what I'm needing or what I'm wanting? And then last, check in. Am I starting a conversation that will help me get my needs met? Again, overall, it's like, am I inviting them to the table and taking the first move in terms of being vulnerable and authentic? And what we're doing by opening up that space is avoiding triggering the other person, because if they get triggered, if you shoot arrows at them and they put their shields up, they cannot really hear your request, and then nobody wins, and that's not any fun. So this is the path to having more empowerment in your communication and more self-mastery for yourself. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that this is helpful. I hope that you implement it. Hit me up in the comments if you have any questions or you give it a try and you want a little problem solving. And if you like this video, make sure to check out some of my other videos on this channel.